Even the happiest superheroes involve a few losses sometimes, but which ones hit us the hardest this year? Let's take a look back at some of the most devastating superhero deaths of 2021. Since Paul Bettany's Vision suffered a brutal death at Thanos' hands in 2018's Avengers Infinity War, there were, as with just about everything in WandaVision, plenty of theories about how Marvel's favorite synthetic superhero was alive in the show. In the series' penultimate episode, it's finally confirmed that, shortly after viewing her lover's disassembled body at SWORD headquarters, Wanda used abilities she didn't even know she had to create a dream vision, along with transforming the town of Westview and its inhabitants. The vision within the Hex Wanda created is born out of their shared connection with the Mind Stone, and over the course of the series, he slowly discovers that his wife essentially created him out of pure power. Wanda finally admits this to him in the series finale, moments before she brings down her mystical Hex, along with all the illusions within it, including Vision.
Oh, I read somewhere that it's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark.
Her lover seems hopeful that he will find some way to return to her before he fades into non-existence, and who knows? SWORD's reassembled White Vision is still out there somewhere, and he could be the key to such a return. Along with Vision, he and Wanda's twin sons, Billy and Tommy, also presumably fade away, but this isn't quite as certain as the Dream Vision's death. In a post-credit scene, as Scarlet Witch communes with the Darkhold, we hear the boys calling out to her for help, perhaps pointing toward the twins' return in the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. One of the impressive highlights of Zack Snyder's Justice League is the opportunity to watch an expanded and beautifully epic version of Darkseid's first effort to conquer Earth. In this flashback, we see a lot more of all the combatants, and in particular, we see a lot more of the Green Lantern, who dies fighting the supervillain. Considering who the Green Lantern is, it's fitting he should live and die in only a single flashback scene. The alien Lantern is Yalan Gur, whose counterpart in the source materials is introduced in 1991's Green Lantern number 19, likewise in a flashback that ends in his death. In the comics, Gur's story is a cautionary tale about a Lantern who's gifted with a ring with no weaknesses, and he's killed by his own overconfidence. You could argue that the movie Yalan Gur dies from the same thing, since he falls going one-on-one with Darkseid, but then again, heading straight for the big bad is kind of a Green Lantern's job. Gur is knocked out of the sky by parademons, and Darkseid takes the opportunity to dominate his foe, killing him brutally. Gur's ring leaves his dead finger, and Darkseid reaches out to claim it, but he's interrupted by the arrows of the Greek goddess Artemis. Presumably, the ring flies away to find a new worthy Green Lantern to succeed Gur. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been decidedly ambiguous regarding the fate of Steve Rogers. We still don't know if he's dead, retired in secret, or somewhere else entirely, but we know of at least one hero who doesn't survive the series. In Episode 4, Lamar Hoskins, aka Battlestar, sacrifices himself to save John Walker from the Flag Smashers. In the episode, the head of the Flag Smashers, Carly Morgenthau, is finding Sam's offer of assistance tempting, but she can't decide whether or not to trust him. She sets up a meeting with Sam Wilson, assuming that Sam won't hold up his part of the deal to come alone. John Walker, the new Captain America, crashes the party, and in the ensuing battle, one of Carly's men gets a hold of him while Carly charges him with a knife drawn. Lamar intercepts Carly, tackling her to the floor. Enraged, the Flag Smasher leader hits Lamar with all of her enhanced strength, sending him flying backward into a pillar and killing him instantly. Battlestar was John Walker's best friend and his biggest cheerleader. His death pushes the already unstable Walker over the edge, and at the end of the episode, the new Captain America murders one of the Flag Smashers in a very public and brutal fashion. Episode 5 opens with Sam and Bucky clashing with Walker to take back his bloody shield, and before long, Walker has returned to the States, where the title of Captain America is stripped from him. But of course, he gets a new identity before the show ends.
We're not gonna need a Captain America. We're gonna need a US agent.
Amazon Prime unveiled its new original animated series Invincible at the end of March, and the premiere ends in a way that lets you know that while this isn't The Boys, it also definitely isn't Super Friends. Early in the first episode, we meet the Guardians of the Globe, the series' version of DC's Justice League, comprised of obvious stand-ins. Instead of Aquaman, there's the fish-headed Aquarius. Instead of the Flash, there's Red Rush. There's Darkwing instead of Batman, and so on and so on. We meet them as they're battling the formidable Mauler twins in Washington, D.C., who they defeat only with the timely arrival of Omni-Man, the show's answer to Superman and the father of the series' title character. In spite of what at first appears to be a strong friendship between Omni-Man and the Guardians, the episode ends with Omni-Man luring the other heroes into a secret meeting and brutally murdering them all, one by one. Aquarius, Red Rush, Darkwing, the Immortal, Martian Man, Green Ghost, and War Woman are all dead before the scene ends, with Omni-Man not even bothering to give his victims any explanation. In the Season 1 finale, Omni-Man finally admits to his son, Invincible, that he murdered the Guardians because, as it turns out, he's not on Earth to protect it. Instead, he's here to prepare the planet to be conquered by the interstellar Viltrumite Empire. In a post-credit scene for the Nexus event, Episode 4 of Loki, we meet a quartet of Loki variants, including the figure dubbed Classic Loki. Played by Richard E. Grant, this Loki's outfit is the most comic book accurate we've seen so far in terms of the god's old-school look. Sadly, the older Loki doesn't survive to see the credits of the following episode. When Sylvie devises a plan to enchant the cloud beast Goliath in order to reach the mystery villain behind the Time Variance Authority, Classic Loki initially seems to want no part of it. But once a plan is hatched and seems to be falling apart, Classic Loki appears to pitch in. Having spent years perfecting his magic, Classic Loki is able to create the massive illusion of a fully formed Asgard. Classic Loki's illusion does its job and distracts Goliath long enough for Sylvie and the younger Loki to regroup and eventually enchant Goliath. But before that happens, Classic Loki falls. Goliath figures out the deception and turns on the creator of the false Asgard. Just before he's devoured, Classic Loki screams at the beast, His horned helmet crashes to the ground where he stood only moments before. One of the first squad members to fall in the Suicide Squad, and the first who also appears in the 2016 predecessor, is Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang. Along with Harley Quinn, Boomerang is one of the first to fight back against a platoon of Corto Maltese soldiers after they open fire. We see one of his glowing boomerangs kill a number of the troops, but unfortunately it's another squad member's bungle that means the end for the projectile-slinging Aussie. When Mongal tries to take down the enemy helicopter on her own, it ultimately works, but it does more harm to Task Force X than good. As the chopper struggles to right itself, the blades rip through the nearby jungle. Captain Boomerang is impaled by multiple large splinters from the devastated trees and falls to his knees. Seeing he's in trouble, Harley calls out to her comrade from cover. In his final moments, Captain Boomerang smiles at Harley until the fiery helicopter races toward him and rips him to pieces. Whether it's intentional or not, it seems like when it comes to veterans of 2016 Suicide Squad, their violent ends tend to come, directly or otherwise, at the hands of their teammates. Though he doesn't seem to enjoy it very much, Peacemaker is responsible for the death of the squad's original movie field leader Rick Flag. When the Thinker proves to Rick Flag that the United States government not only already knew about Starro, but is actually responsible for bringing the creature to Earth and funding experiments on it, Flag vows to expose the conspiracy with a computer drive containing all the relevant data. But after retrieving the drive, Flag finds himself threatened by Peacemaker, who we learn was secretly tasked by Amanda Waller to make sure the records don't leave Jotunheim. A brutal fight ensues between Flag and Peacemaker, and Flag doesn't survive. Throughout the battle, while Peacemaker refuses to relent, it's clear he's conflicted about what he's doing. Flag temporarily gains the upper hand, pinning Peacemaker to the ground and choking him, but Peacemaker grabs a nearby broken shard of porcelain and drives it through Flag's chest and into his heart. The Colonel's last words are,
Peacemaker. What a joke.
If Mongal is the most nerfed DC Comics character in the Suicide Squad, David Dastmalchian's Polka-Dot Man, superpower-wise at least, if not in terms of mental stability, gets perhaps one of the biggest boosts. Unlike his comic book counterpart, whose dot projectiles spring from a high-tech suit, this version of Abner Krill suffers an interdimensional virus that will eat him alive if he doesn't release the deadly polka dots from his body at least twice per day. And while, yes, he looks like a walking twister mat, his dots are quite deadly, and he manages to cripple the massive Starro all on his own in the final climactic battle. Sadly, Polka-Dot Man doesn't hurt the alien beast quite enough to survive. Bloodsport lures Polka-Dot Man out of hiding by telling him Starro is his mother. When he takes a look, Abner sees, as he usually does, his mother in place of the giant alien. He lets loose his polka dots, damaging one of Starro's limbs enough that all of the alien's thralls scream out in unison. But right after Polka-Dot Man triumphantly yells out that he's a superhero, his celebration is cut short as one of Starro's limbs crushes him. The 2021 DC Comics maxi series Infinite Frontier packed plenty of big developments into its pages, including the grisly deaths of some of the most powerful characters to ever appear in the DC universe. Throughout 2021's Infinite Frontier number 0, interspersed with moments from across the DC universe, we get scenes of the beings known as the Quintessence speaking with Wonder Woman and attempting to recruit her to their ranks. The Quintessence is a reality-manipulating council of what can only be described as gods. There's High Father of the New Gods, Ganthith of Oa's Guardians of the Universe, the Phantom Stranger, the Spectre, the Goddess Hera, and the Wizard Shazam. Thankfully, Wonder Woman ultimately turns down their offer of membership because otherwise she'd probably be dead right now. Toward the end of the issue, the terrifying supervillain Darkseid emerges. Reconstituted from other versions of himself from across the multiverse, Darkseid is more powerful than ever, and he easily murders all 6 members of the Quintessence, impaling them with dark energy and stomping on their corpses. At the end of 2021's Green Lantern number 2, the central power battery on Oa explodes. Along with all the people killed in the explosion, the destruction of the battery leaves most of the Green Lantern Corps defenseless. Almost every single Green Lantern ring loses its power after the death of the battery, leaving many lanterns missing, others caught in the void of space without their ring to protect them, and still more as prey for the enemies of Oa who've long been waiting for such an opportunity. In Green Lantern number 4, we begin to get a more complete list of living lanterns, dead ones, and the missing. While a few names of the dead are of Corps members never seen before in the comics, more than you might expect are familiar characters. In particular, on Oa, Joe Mullen receives word that Arisia Robb and Isamont Cole, who we saw floating in space in the previous issue, are confirmed dead. Meanwhile, Lantern John Stewart learns that a group of slavers has killed and collected bounties on 300 members of the Corps. He has the slavers' computers read the names of the dead lanterns, and there are at least 5 who've appeared in previous comics. The stony-skinned Ashpak Glyph, Moro, Palakwa, Bath Sarn of Ron, and the aquatic Not Kiloi. The heroes of Titans lost Donna Troy in the Season 2 finale, but it doesn't take them quite as long to lose another one of their members in Season 3. In the 3rd episode of the 3rd season, Hank and Dove, Hawk becomes a victim of Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood. Hawk allows Jason to lure him into a trap where he's knocked out and wakes up with an explosive device surgically implanted in his chest. Jason comes up with a cruel ruse for the Titans. He tells them that the only way he'll deactivate the explosive is if they steal a shipment of gold bars for him. While Superboy tries to use the combination of his super speed and the intellect gifted to him by Lex Luthor to stop the bomb, Dove, not willing to lose Hawk, does Jason's bidding. After Dove delivers the gold to Jason, the villain has one more trick up his sleeve. He gives Dove a gun and tells her the explosive's deactivator has a dead man switch. If she kills Jason, Hawk will be saved. Nightwing arrives and tries to stop Dove, but she pulls the trigger. Unfortunately, the gun's trigger proves to be the explosive's detonator. Moments before Superboy would have been able to safely disarm the bomb, it detonates, killing Hawk. As soon as it was revealed that Disney Plus's What If would include an episode inspired by the Marvel Zombies comic stories, it became one of the most highly anticipated moments of the series. While What If Zombies doesn't prove nearly as graphic as the comic book that inspired it, the episode still has a pretty high body count. We find out that in this reality, when he went into the quantum realm in search of his long-lost love, Hank Pym brings back a deadly zombie virus. Soon after, heroes like Iron Man, Wong, Captain America, Wanda Maximoff, Hawkeye, and Falcon are turned into zombies. By the time Bruce Banner arrives on Earth, as far as the heroes are concerned, there's only a small band of them left alive and uninfected. By the end of the episode, most of the surviving heroes are survivors no longer. Sharon Carter is killed by the zombie Captain America. The Wasp is infected during combat and sacrifices herself. Bucky and Okoye are killed by the zombie Wanda, and Vision destroys himself by removing the Mind Stone from his body. The Hulk finally emerges from Bruce Banner to go toe-to-toe with the zombie Wanda, and it's implied that he makes a last stand against Maximoff and the zombie hordes, though we never see him fall. The only Avengers on Earth confirmed to survive are Spider-Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man's preserved head, and, if you can count it, Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation. In Avengers number 46, the Russian super team the Winter Guard, with the help of the traitorous Gorilla Man, invades Avengers Mountain and kidnaps She-Hulk. Their justification for the assault is the battle She-Hulk wages with Namor in Moscow in Avengers number 43 and 44, and the resulting damage it causes. In truth, though, they want to bring Jennifer Walters back to Russia in order to brainwash and transform her into their puppet. Ursa Major, a mutant with the ability to transform himself into the form of a super strong bear, doesn't survive the incursion, though it isn't an Avenger who kills him. Having made a deal with Dracula and the Winter Guard, Gorilla Man sabotages the defenses of Avengers Mountain and makes it easier for the Russian team to isolate She-Hulk and fight her on their own. While She-Hulk almost manages to escape them, the artificial humanoid Vostok ultimately subdues her. As the team is on their way out of the mountain, Ursa Major whispers to Gorilla Man, indicating the mutant apparently turned on his team and tried to help the Avengers in secret. When Vostok yells to Ursa Major that the team is leaving, Red Widow responds by noting that the bear is a traitor and stabs Ursa Major through the neck, killing him. On the series premiere of the HBO original The Nevers, set in London at the end of the 19th century, we learn a mysterious object flew over the city 4 years before the events of the show. The object scattered a glowing substance over the populace, granting some of them superhuman abilities. Those with abilities soon become known as the Touched. Feared by other Londoners, some of the Touched take shelter in St. Romuald's orphanage run by Amalia True, forming a kind of superhero team in the process. One of the Touched is Mary Brighton, whose ability is especially interesting. Brighton's seemingly alien singing can only be heard by other Touched, and upon hearing it, they're soothed. In an effort to bring hope and union to the Touched, inventor Penance creates an amplifier she hopes will allow Brighton's song to reach every Touched in London. Hesitant at first, Brighton eventually agrees to Penance's plan, but mid-song she's abruptly riddled with bullets by Cruz. a criminal touched with a Gatling gun-like prosthetic arm and the ability to fire bullets from his body. Brighton dies almost instantly, robbing the touched of her gift. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about superheroes are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.